to episode 2 of the Olympic series, examining the relationship between the Games and politics. This series will focus on the participation of the International Olympic Committee in international relations and politics.
We will do this by examining the mission statement of the IOC and look at how it seeks to promote these actions in the international sphere.
Specifically, we will examine past and present actions of the IOC where they have banned national Olympic committees from competing or sending athletes.
The Olympic Charter outlines part of the IOC's mission to build a more peaceful and better world.
The main body in charge of achieving this aim within the Olympic movement is the International Olympic Truce Foundation. They do this by encouraging political leaders to act in favour of peace, organising conferences on sport and peace, and educating young people in Olympic ideals.
Along with this, the Olympic Truce Foundation is incumbent within the UN. This does not only give it true international political status, but also greatly politicises the entire Olympic movement in a more official manner. Therefore, the IOC's actions towards other states are inherently political. Next, we will examine how, why and where these actions have manifested themselves and whether these actions have achieved anything towards the Olympic ideal internationally.
So how or by what criteria does the IOC decide who they will put political pressure on?
If an NCO does uphold the basic ethics and principles of the Olympic Charter, or they appear to be corrupted by a governmental or political group, then the decision will be made by the Executive Board to suspend them from the Games, and they will not be recognised until such time that they have corrected their policies.
These main ethics include gender equality, peace and non-discrimination. The NOCs must also remain autonomous from government and free from economic pressures.
An example of an NOC that's been banned by the IOC is Kuwait, which was banned because of interference from its own government. The IOC requires that the National Olympic Committee is not influenced by its own government. So, for example, the British Olympic Association decided to go to Moscow in 1980 after a vote of the individual sports amongst themselves. 25 sports voted to go, and so 25 sports went to the Moscow Olympics despite the opposition of Margaret Thatcher. Now, this shows the independence of the National Olympic Committee from national politics and from government. Other issues in other countries that might be explored, such as the lack of freedom in North Korea, or the issue of female participation in Iran. These are much broader, more general, more difficult, more complicated issues on which the IOC doesn't yet have a firm and clear set of guidelines, and that's why it's difficult for them to act.
There is some evidence to suggest that banning NOCs to apply international pressure on a government can be a contributive factor in achieving political change.
In 1964, the IOC banned the National Olympic Committee of South Africa from competing in the Games to adhere to and support the international protest against its apartheid movement. In doing so, other sporting bodies such as the ICC and IRB from Cricket and Rugby Union followed suit and banned South Africa from competing in their respective competitions.
Whilst the bans alone did not stop the apartheid movement, they did embody the international feeling towards the government. In 1994, the movement was finally overthrown and South Africa rejoined the international sporting arena.
The question we must ask ourselves now is whether the IOC should use its prominent position to exact more influence on competing nations and their governments by banning more NOCs who do not adhere to the Olympic Charter.
The International Olympic Committee should ban all NOCs who go against the Charter because this will pressurise them into becoming more peaceful, promote gender and ethnic equality and improve sporting infrastructure in that country.
Yes, but the Games, as we learned in episode 1, are about the athletes and the competition, not about the governments or institutionalised political movements. The South Africa ban did not halt the apartheid, as the movement continued for nearly 40 years after it. Therefore, the IOCs should not ban any nation from competing, as it achieves nothing and simply prevents athletes from competing.
Yes, but with the IOC's inception into the UN and with the Olympics' massive exposure in today's globalised media, not appearing at the Games would now cause major detriment to a country's global image.
Fine, But the countries that would potentially be in line to be banned, those whose international reputation could barely be damaged by not being allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. These are countries such as Iran or North Korea. It's not going to affect them.
If you have an opinion on this issue or would like to learn more, please contact us.
What have you done today? Gonna make you feel proud.